White balance isn't just a JPEG thing. If you're only recording the RAW format, it still matters. It matters for your exposure, for previewing your image, and for your RAW post processing workflow. So, in this video, we're going to take a look at the 4 different auto white balance modes in Nikon cameras, how and when to use the Kelvin white balance setting, and also how to create your own manual white balance presets. Now, we're not going to get too technical in this video. We're not going to look in depth at color temperature or how to program custom controls for adjusting the white balance. That's all covered in the Nikon Z Photography Fundamentals course, in the same chapter that includes using the histogram, adjusting exposure, and creating custom settings. You can check out those free previews at photocourses.link/NikonZ and use the code TUBE20 for 20% off that full course. But let's start by looking at auto white balance. You may have heard it before. I see it in the message boards all the time. Just leave your white balance in auto. It's good enough for JPEG, and if you're recording the RAW file, you can always adjust the white balance later. Now, while I have disagreements with all of these statements, and we can discuss those on another day, still, there's 4 auto white balance options in Nikon cameras. So even if you wanted to just leave it in auto all the time, which auto option are you going to choose? The 3 auto options with the numbers A0, A1, and A2, those were designed with indoor incandescent lighting in mind. Light bulbs that emit warm amber colors. And those could be filament-based bulbs or LEDs. These 3 options give you 3 choices for warmth. How much of that amber is retained in the photo? That's a good way of thinking of it. A0, that tries to make whites look white. So there's little to no amber color tones in that photo. It's going to try to neutralize those so that none of that is reflected off of white or color neutral surfaces. A2 is going to preserve or even exaggerate those warm tones, which may be your preference if you're doing like indoor portraits and you want a warmer feeling, or you just like those warm tones as a preference. And then A1 is supposed to be in the middle. It doesn't completely eliminate those warm color tones emitted by these kinds of bulbs, but it also doesn't exaggerate them either. And because these 3 settings were designed for those specific light bulbs, you won't notice much of a difference under other lighting conditions, like outdoors or when using daylight balanced bulbs. This setting still works fine for all light sources. If you don't know which auto option to use, you're confused, just set it to A1, that middle option, and that's going to work good enough for any kind of indoor lighting that you might encounter or even outdoors. It's going to get you close most of the time. But that's why I say that we need to be paying attention to our white balance more, because there are better ways of doing it. And if you're outdoors, one of those better ways is to use natural light auto. Now, the manual doesn't really go too much into this. All it says about natural light auto is that it renders colors as our eyes perceive them under natural light. And that natural light could be direct sunlight, it could be light filtering through clouds on an overcast day, any kind of natural light. The natural light auto setting was designed specifically for that. I actually think it does a great job of producing richer colors under natural light, and that's what I like about it. It's not trying to neutralize color cast that you might get from other artificial light sources. There are some comparisons that you can see right here. There's a little more warmth using the natural light auto setting. Greens are more green, and natural colors are just more vivid. It just looks more natural, which is all in the name. There are some lighting situations that are a bit more tricky, and none of those auto options look right. Or maybe you want to intentionally warm or cool a photo for creative purposes. And that's where that Kelvin setting really comes in handy. It's really quite simple. Low numbers make your photo look more blue, give it a cooler, more of like a winter feeling, while high numbers make your photo look more amber, more yellow. They give it a warmer, kind of a summer feeling. So you can move those numbers around until it either looks correct for the light that you're in, or it has the feeling that you want your photo to have. And even if you're shooting only raw, this can help you kind of remember, what kind of feeling did I want this photo to have when I shot that photo? One of the benefits of using Kelvin is that when you're shooting under consistent lighting, lighting that is not changing at all, that could be outdoors on a sunny day where the sun's directly overhead, there's no clouds passing through, or you're indoors under one light bulb that is not changing at all. Those previous options that we just talked about, all of the auto options, your white balance correction is actually going to change every single time you press the shutter button, all based on how you compose your photo and what light is reflecting back to the camera. Now, if your light source is not changing at all, your white balance correction shouldn't really be changing at all. And so, in those auto options, you may notice different color temperature corrections from one photo to the next. But if you use the Kelvin white balance option, those white balance corrections are going to be locked in, and you're going to have consistent colors from one photo to the next. There is an auto white balance lock option in Nikon cameras. We don't have time for that today, but that is there if you do want to explore locking in your auto white balance. But what if none of those auto options are working and you just don't know which Kelvin color temperature to use to get accurate colors? You can create your own manual white balance preset for a specific lighting situation. For this example here, let's say you were photographing food in your kitchen at night under mixed lighting and none of that light is changing. It helped to have an accurate measurement of that light for consistent colors across all of your pictures created in this environment. You do need a color neutral object to make these measurements. There are white balance cards specifically designed for this purpose. Or you can use any white or gray object like white paper or a white wall to get close. Just note that if it has any kind of tinting at all in that object, like a slight magenta tint or a slight yellow color cast, that's going to be reflected while you're making the measurement, and your manual preset is going to be a little bit off. So it should lack any kind of tint at all, be a neutral white or gray object. But if you go to one of the preset options in your I menu, in the white balance menu, you'll see this instruction on the screen to long press the OK button to start the measurement mode. And this is slightly different from camera to camera, but the directions are all on the bottom of the screen. Make sure that your measurement object, in this case, the white balance card, is in the same light as your subject. Fill the square with it, and press OK, and now that'll be saved as a custom white balance measurement that you can go back to and select. You can reuse this anytime you are back in this lighting situation. There's one other thing that you can do to all of these white balance options, and that's to fine tune them, which you'll also see in the menus as adjust. When you go into that fine tuning or adjustment menu, you'll see this graph. You can just use the directional pads to add different amounts of yellow or blue or red or cyan, again, to either make it look right or for creative purposes. There are all those other white balance presets in the menu: shade, direct sunlight, fluorescent. Those are a lot more limiting just because they are programmed for one specific lighting situation. And if there are any variations in the lighting that you're in, even if you're in shade and you select shade, it's going to be different from the type of shade that you're in. So they are a lot more restrictive. I did just want to point that out. But becoming familiar with these specific white balance options that we went over in this video will make your shooting and your editing a lot easier, especially if you're going for those great looking in-camera JPEGs And even if you're recording RAW, it's going to make your post-processing workflow a lot faster. Be sure to check out that Nikon Z Photography Fundamentals course to learn even more about all of your different exposure settings, focus modes, camera customization. Again, find those free previews at photocourses.link/NikonZ. Use that code TUBE20 for 20% off. Subscribe for more great tips like this every week. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.